Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Neecuism. How's everybody going? How's everybody doing today? I want to get right to it. Get a few things out of the way first. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube page. Make sure you check out, of course, the website. It should be posted somewhere on the bottom here. www.neecuism.com/power if you're interested in donating, making book donations to offset some of the publishing costs, amongst other ideas I have for the book. What else? Damn it. Oh yeah, I want to introduce, this is actually going to be the first of many blogs. I have this idea to where I want to do blogs mainly on, it won't be on every law in Mr. Greene's book, but of course most of the laws that I actually have an anti-perspective on, or like I said, the book I'm writing is more of an antithesis to Robert Greene's book, The 48 Laws of Power. So I figured I'll do some actual digital blogs, with focus on those. So I say all that to say this, one of Robert Greene's laws is conceal your intentions. My book being the antithesis, I'm going to live my book. So I'm actually going to have a blog about this, concealing your intentions versus my perspective speaking to existence. So if I was going about this process, abiding by Robert Greene's laws, I wouldn't be doing anything I'm doing now. So basically, I want to live what I'm writing. So basically, I'm going to give you all everything. I'm going to give you the book as I'm writing it. If you follow these blogs I'm going to give and everything, you're literally getting a rough draft of my book while I'm writing it, which I bet in Robert Greene's eyes, or Robert Greene's law's eyes, would be retardation. I'm trying to sell a book that I'm going to give away, but this is all about living what I'm writing about. So all right, I say all that to say this. I'm starting those blogs, so on the bottom I'll probably put I'm probably going to put this under the blog website, so it's going to be www.neecuism.com/blog for that. By the time I post this, I should have that website up. But yeah, let's get into it, because I was actually going to start with the first law, but since I drive trucks, I don't really physically have time to read the book, so I got it on audiobook. And I was going to go with the first law, which is, I believe, don't outshine the master. Excuse me. Which I assume my next blog is going to be, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think my next blog is going to be tentatively titled Don't Outshine the Master versus my view is Be the Master. Shine, young nigga, shine. But yeah. So let's get into it. Like I said, I was going to get into that one, the first law, but there was so much stuff in the preface that I was reading that I was like, man, I got enough content to talk about my anti-perspective on that. So basically, yeah, let's start with the preface. And yeah, all right, I got a lot of notes because this is mainly almost like a rough draft of what I've been writing and stuff. But as I was reading the preface, as I was listening to the preface, just different things I pointed out, I'm going to point out Mr. Greene's focus versus what mine is going to be in my book. I kind of started out I'm one of them people that I listen to every word, but I mainly listen for power words. Which is no pun intended, power words, but a lot of times I listen to every word that people say, but certain words stick out in my mind, like power words, like certain words that, those words you hear that mainly mean something, not the ands and the thes and shit like that. Those words that stick out. And basically, as I'm listening to the preface, my first thoughts were, this is a joke, but I was like, if I had a quarter or a penny or a dollar for every time I heard the words such as deception and manipulation in the preface, I wouldn't need the lottery. Saying that is I was listening to the preface and I'm hearing all these things describing about, Greene's, how this book is what it's about. And like I said, in my mind, his book is more about achieving external power, which in my mind is AKA power over others. So I kept hearing terms as far as like utilizing deception and manipulation, and which brought up to where this book is going to be a lot easier to write than I thought it was going to be, because like I said, external versus internal. Trying to develop power over others, you do have to use tactics as far as manipulation and deception. But when your focus is developing power of oneself, instead of being a god in business, being a god of yourself, it's less about manipulation and deception and more about integrity and developing a high moral compass, a high spiritual IQ, as I like to call it. Let's move on though. Yeah, so that's going to be the difference. They actually mention power as being immoral, and makes reference to power as nothing more than a game of immorality. Yeah, so like I said, the difference, like achieving external power over others, it's like it actually talks about this is like a game of immorality, where of course my book being the antithesis, you're going to develop tools that actually help develop your moral compass, raise your level of integrity, and raise your level of spirituality. Because when you're trying to focus on developing power of yourself, internal power as I like to call it, you don't have to worry about being immoral. And it's like, I don't know, man, I was listening to this shit and it's like, god damn, it's just hard. Well, anyway, they talked about yeah, one of the laws is going to be conceal your intentions. And so conceal your intentions makes sense when you're dealing with business or dealing with external power over others. You want to hide what you have going on. You want to, like you said, hide. You want to be very secretive about what you're trying to do, because you're trying to fool motherfuckers and shit. But when you're just talking about internal power, being a god of oneself, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. You can actually, like even with this, I can actually focus on, like, see this, concealing your intentions versus speaking into existence. I don't have to worry about concealing my intentions for a couple reasons. For one, I'm a man. And I got balls. So I'm not gonna move around here like a bitch all secretory and shit. Secretory, I don't even know if that's a word, but fuck that. Anyway, and another thing, in my mind, what I'm doing can't be done by anybody else. I mean, it probably could, but not the way I do it. I'm that nigga. And I feel like everybody should feel like that nigga. Everybody should feel like God. It's not even so much what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. Nobody could write this book the way I'm going to do it. So in the end, I'm not fearful of giving you the book as I'm writing it. Because when it comes out, nobody can do this the way I am doing it. And nobody can do anything the way you can do it personally if you get in tune with yourself. No matter what you're trying to do in life. You don't have to conceal anything you got going on. Nobody can steal what you're doing. I mean, I don't know. If you're worried about people stealing what you're doing, then you're probably not doing the right thing. Let's see. The preface also talks about power as being a social game centered around learning about others, which I disagree with. Actually, I agree with if you're dealing with external power and dealing with trying to develop power over others. You have to do those type of things. You have to learn about others and tactics and what they're thinking. It seems like there's so much you have to do to develop power over others. With me, developing internal power, learning how to be a god of oneself, it's more about learning about yourself. And the more you learn about yourself, the more internal power you grow, the more that inner light shines, the more you illuminate. It starts, one of the Hermetic principles is as within, so without. So with me, everything starts within. It's the opposite with external power. That's why external power, you have to worry about everybody else before you worry about yourself. With me, I don't give a fuck what nobody else is doing. The more I get in tune with myself, it doesn't matter of my surroundings. As within, so without. Internal power. Let me see. It talks about in the preface is one big focal point is going to be understanding others' hidden motives. And yeah, Like I said, his book is all about learning about others and tactics of others. You gotta worry about what everybody else is doing. Fuck that, man. When you're developing, instead of trying to be a god of business, my book is going to be about being a god of yourself. So you don't have to worry about anybody else. It doesn't fucking matter what anybody else is doing. The more you get in tune with yourself, the deeper you get in tune with yourself. Damn, another one of my laws is going to talk about the onion theory, which I kind of developed in my own head, but I've also read online that there's other theories. But in the end, kind of feel like there's layers to us as people. The more you peel back those layers, the more you learn about yourself, the deeper it gets. And there's even more like parallels to where I think about it. You ever think about the more layers you get, the deeper you peel back? And when you actually do like personal therapy amongst yourself or whatever, the deeper you get, you know how it makes you cry? You know, onions make you cry? Like, the deeper I get in tune with myself, it's like I'll learn not super shit, but deeper stuff about myself and actually find myself like crying and shit, becoming emotional, but not in a bad way, like tears of joy. Yeah, I'm oversharing like I always do. But, alright. And they move on in the preface to talk about, consider the book as a handbook in the arts of indirection. It makes sense. When you're dealing with external power, dealing with business, it makes sense. You have to be indirect about your motives, just like being worried about the indirectness of other people's motives. Where with my book, when you're dealing with internal power and dealing with yourself, becoming a god of oneself, you can be direct. You can speak into existence. You can give out. You can share and be free and tell the truth and do whatever. It's a lot less stress after you break down and actually get used to doing it. You know what I mean? But yeah, at first it is weird, especially when you're dealing with people who, like, I'll go into that later, but never mind. But one part that I did like at first was it was talking about a lot of the laws and stuff are based upon prominent, I don't know how to word it, like strategists, as far as like, he mentioned Lao Tzu. Very, very awesome stuff you learn from him. I believe he wrote The Art of War and other prominent books and stuff. So I like that part. But then he goes on. He says that the book also pulls from other people, and he actually mentions he pulls from other seducers and con artists. Like, that was, when I talk about hearing power words, I'm like, what the fuck? Seducers and con artists. So he actually took things from seducers and con artists to write his book, which makes sense. When you're dealing with power over others, you have to worry about and learn tactics from almost immoral, I don't want to categorize people, but immoral people, like con artists and seducers. Wherein my book, of course, I'm going to be less concerned with pulling stuff from con artists and seducers. I'm probably going to take quotes from man, a lot of people to be seen, but none from seducers and con artists. Alright. I can't even read my own handwriting. Laws are, oh yeah, okay, yeah. They go on to talk about how the laws in the book are timeless. I completely disagree with that. I think at one point maybe they were timeless. But I actually feel like, this is going in deep into a different subject, but I actually feel like there's a shift going on to where, like, even the earth itself and people in general are raising to higher levels of consciousness, to where these tactics of immorality and being indirect and stuff, they're not going to be as successful as higher consciousness raises, the more your self-awareness grows. To where, I say all that to say this, these laws aren't as effective to the people that are more self-aware. The more you know about yourself, the more you can spot the bullshit, the more you can spot the people that actually are utilizing these laws in this book, and they stick out and you actually look at them as being sad. Because it's like, one of the big reasons for me writing this book is because I come across people all the time who actually, you can actually sense that they're going about their life, not even in business, when dealing with business relationships, personal relationships, sexual relationships, they're actually utilizing these laws. And it's like, I just feel like people have taken this book to be more than what it should be. And they've given the book too much power, in a sense, to where, and I think over time, these laws themselves are going to lose power. And another reason too, like I said, the higher consciousness, but another reason too is, like, as the power of the book has grown, the more everybody reads these laws, the less powerful they become. How do you get over on somebody that knows the same laws you read? Everybody knows these fucking laws. Everybody's read the fucking book. So it's like, how do you... They're less effective. They're only going to work on stupid people now, in my idea. But, and then, my book is going to have more... Yeah. Okay. So, in conclusion, I got a few conclusions I made. I low-key feel like this book is a tool generated, is being utilized as a tool generated by the powers that be, used for lowering everybody's moral compass, integrity, and character. If you actually read this book and apply these laws to everything, like, the more everybody does, you can actually look around and notice, like, even all the stuff I was mentioning, like immorality and all these things, seducers and all these things, it's like turned America to what it is right now. It's like this big shit show of everybody trying to get over on each other, which is another reason for me writing this book. It's like, imagine if everybody was more worried about achieving internal power, you know, and everybody was looking to actually become gods. We would actually walk around treating each other as gods instead of treating each other as motherfuckers who trying to get over on each other. You know what I mean? I think the world would be a better place if we were more worried about achieving internal power, becoming a god of oneself. Yeah. And I also had a couple more conclusions. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get right into it. I kind of feel like this book is mainly about getting niggas to act like bitches. If you think about it, when I read about the shit that I was reading about, I feel like this book is mainly trying to get people to focus on getting over on each other and be catty. It's almost like, I just feel like any real man in my eyes moves based upon integrity and a high moral compass and a high spiritual IQ. Real men in my eyes are more focused on internal power. And this book just seems like it's mainly about getting men to focus on everything outside of themselves, getting men to focus on every other man and every other woman and look at them as being as some of everybody as being just part of this game where you're just trying to achieve higher levels of external power, and it's like almost sickening. It's like a disease almost. And I think it's some whole shit. So one thing I'll leave on is like I was saying, I kind of get it. Like I said, my book, I'm mainly writing it for young black men. Because I kind of feel like if young black men were to read Robert Greene's book, it's like perfect in the sense of getting a young black mind to read this book and morph them into thinking like how, I guess how, like, white men that are so focused on power, it's almost getting them to think like pseudo-powerful white men, like business powerful white men or whatever, which is one way to live your life, if that's going to be your focus, if it's all about just achieving monetary wealth and stuff. You know, I understand these kind of laws and stuff, but in the end, it's getting you to focus on everything outside yourself, worried about everything externally, to where worrying about who's getting over on who, worrying about all this. It's almost, in the end, I almost feel like it's trying to get young black men to think like women, to think like women and white men. It's like low insecurity, and I'm not judging all people in a box, but this book, it's almost like, it's like Steve Harvey's book of getting men to like act and think like women or insecure white men. Whereas if you actually believe in you know, certain aspects of men, like, damn, there are certain Afrocentric principles, like even the 5%ers and shit, 5%ers, Hebrew Israelites, like Kemetic scientists and all that, they almost focus on like the black men being God. You know what I mean? And I actually believe that in a lot of ways. But that has to do with more getting in tune with yourself. So my book is going to be more about the focus of getting us as black men and young black men to more seeking within and finding that God within, because it's in you. It's in our DNA. We don't have to look outside ourselves. We don't have to look to everything outside ourselves as far as money and I don't know, materialistic shit, achieving materialistic things to actually making us feel powerful. We were born gods. Like, it's sad that I'm writing a book about how to become God. I'm writing it because at one point I had lost myself. So I want to write this book to give myself and everybody else, especially young black men, those tools to rekindling and illuminating that God within. Because once we get within, a lot of times too, the further we get within, the more it brings us to our actual destiny, to wherever we're supposed to get. If we're meant to have all these material things around us, then it should come from finding within first. And I honestly feel like the more we find and go within, the more everything around us handles itself. Yeah. I know I taught y'all to death. And that's just blog number 1. And this is just on the preface of the book. Like I said, www.neecuism.com/power if you'd like to donate to the book publishing donations. I recently added a tab for people that don't feel comfortable with the GoFundMe. There's a PayPal tab and a Cash App tab. If you feel it in your heart to give, if you don't, that's cool. I'd actually like it if you just shared more than anything, but people don't do that. But anyway, it don't matter. Like, share, comment on the video. My YouTube /MrNut3000, Twitter /Neecuism. You can find me on Facebook. If you want to go to the website, go on, click on the Facebook link. I'm on there under Neecuism Oliver Christ. And I believe the next blog is tentatively titled Be the Master, Shine Bright, my nigga. And like I said, it's going to be the antithesis of Greene's first law: never outshine the master. All right, love.